Let's talk about the most dangerous math problem in retirement. It usually starts at a kitchen table, late at night, staring at a piece of paper or a glowing screen from the Social Security Administration. The question is incredibly simple. Can I just retire on this $1,765 a month alone? Understanding what this system was actually built to do. It was designed strictly as a baseline safety net, an emergency infrastructure meant to keep older citizens from freezing in the dark or starving in the streets. We are systematically treating a safety net like a hammock. We are asking an emergency stopgap to carry the entire weight of a modern, dignified retirement. And when millions of people ask the wrong question, they get the wrong answer. So, is it technically possible to retire solely on a Social Security check? Yes, millions of Americans are doing it right now. But the word possible is doing a tremendous amount of heavy lifting here. To understand why, we need to redefine what that monthly check actually represents. Think of the Social Security payment as a floor. A floor is essential. It keeps you from sleeping on the dirt and provides a baseline foundation. But a floor has no walls to block the winter wind, and it lacks a roof to stop the pouring rain. Relying exclusively on that structural floor leaves you completely exposed to the unforgiving elements of economic reality. Think about the mechanics of a normal working life. When you are employed, you possess a hidden, highly effective superpower, a financial shock absorber. If the price of gas spikes, if the grocery bill creeps up, or the car needs new brakes, it hurts your wallet. But you have options. You might pick up an extra shift, ask for a raise, tighten your monthly budget, or simply absorb the cost through your active cash flow. Your income is dynamic. It has the elasticity and the capacity to react to the surrounding world. Everything changes the moment you move to a fixed income powered solely by the Social Security Administration. You strip away that shock absorber entirely. The income loses its elasticity. So when a sudden downward spike hits, the structure can no longer bend. It physically fractures. Your incoming capital is now static, rigid, and brutally unresponsive. When that government check is your only source of capital, every unexpected expense escalates. On a static income, a broken water heater is a catastrophe. It triggers a chain reaction of agonizing choices. Do you fix the plumbing, or do you buy this month's medication? This is the psychological reality that spreadsheets and retirement calculators consistently miss. This transition dictates the entire nature of your daily existence. You spend your waking hours managing severe scarcity. Routine activities like grocery shopping or opening a utility bill turn into tense, calculated operations. These are existential threats when the margin for error is zero. You are essentially forced to play a lifelong game of financial defense. Purchasing power is a descending line, steadily eroding downward year over year, contrasted sharply against a perfectly static, unchanging horizontal line representing fixed Social Security income. Playing defense with a static baseline is a game you are mathematically destined to lose. To truly answer whether you can survive on the check alone, we have to stop looking at abstract national averages. We have to stress test that structural floor against the actual heavy machinery of modern living. Rising housing costs, steep healthcare premiums, complex hidden taxation, and the silent thief of inflation. Because when you strip away the shock absorber of active income, the difference between a secure retirement and a desperate one usually comes down to one single bad surprise. Let us systematically test the assumed safety net of Social Security against the 5 unforgiving pillars of everyday survival. The first, and often the heaviest, is housing. There is a persistent myth that if you reach retirement with a fully paid-off mortgage, your housing costs effectively drop to zero. But a paid-off house is never entirely free. You are simply shifting your financial obligation from paying a bank to paying the local government and the insurance companies. Property taxes have a vicious tendency to climb upward, totally indifferent to your fixed income status. In rapidly developing areas, the property tax bill alone can easily consume 2 to 3 months' worth of a typical Social Security benefit. Add to that the cost of homeowners insurance, where premiums have skyrocketed in recent years due to climate events, material costs, and corporate restructuring. Then there is the brutal reality of home maintenance. A 30-year-old roof does not care that you are retired, and a failing HVAC system does not offer senior discounts. If you do not have a robust, dedicated emergency fund, a single major home repair will instantly force you into high-interest credit card debt, collapsing whatever fragile stability your Social Security check was providing. If you are renting, the mathematical trap is even more direct. Renters on fixed incomes are entirely at the mercy of the open market the moment their lease expires. Landlords will raise the rent to match current market inflation, but your Social Security cost of living adjustment, or COLA, rarely keeps pace with localized double-digit spikes in the rental market. Because of this dynamic, every single year, a larger and larger percentage of your fixed check must be diverted just to keep a roof over your head. You are caught in a vice grip that progressively starves out every other category in your budget. The second pillar of our stress test is healthcare. Many people falsely assume turning 65 and enrolling in Medicare permanently solves their medical expenses. Medicare is neither free nor comprehensive. The standard Medicare Part B premium is actually deducted directly from your Social Security check before you even see the money, an immediate reduction to your actual take-home pay. The true danger lies in what traditional Medicare entirely excludes. It does not cover routine dental, vision, or hearing care, meaning a single root canal or a necessary set of hearing aids can cost thousands of dollars out of pocket. Most importantly, traditional Medicare offers zero funding for long-term custodial care, the kind of daily living assistance you need if you lose the physical ability to bathe, dress, or feed yourself. The cost of a home health aide or in an assisted living facility can easily exceed $4,000 to $5,000 a month. A single Social Security check cannot even begin to touch that number. This layering visualization demonstrates the actual financial structure of senior medical coverage. To protect against the massive gaps in the traditional Medicare baseline, you are heavily encouraged to purchase supplemental Medigap or Advantage plans alongside a Part D prescription drug plan. When you stack the mandatory Part B deductions, the supplemental premiums, the deductibles, and the copays, healthcare shifts from a safety net into a primary financial drain, consuming a staggering portion of a retiree's sole income stream. This brings us to the third and fourth pillars, transportation and basic sustenance. A car does not suddenly become immune to major mechanical failure just because its owner has stopped commuting to work. Auto insurance, registration, gasoline, and routine maintenance exert a constant pressure on the budget. If age or declining health forces you to give up driving entirely, you must now pay for expensive ride-sharing services, taxis, or specialized senior transport, which drain a limited income even faster. Then there is the grocery store. Food prices are notoriously volatile. While a senior can substitute expensive cuts of meat for cheaper, heavily processed alternatives, they can only stretch $1 so far. There is a strict biological limit to how much a retiree can cut grocery and transit budgets before the lack of nutrition and mobility begins to actively destroy their physical health and independence. Finally, we arrive at the fifth pillar, the silent mathematical predator that makes living entirely on a government check so incredibly dangerous: the illusion of the cost of living adjustment. Every year, the Social Security Administration announces the COLA. This side-by-side comparison shows the actual data sets used to calculate that adjustment. The critical flaw in the formula is that the index measures the spending habits of urban wage earners, not retired senior citizens. Workers spend a much larger percentage of their income on consumer goods like clothing, electronics, and commuting. Retirees, by contrast, must dedicate a vastly disproportionate amount of their income to housing and healthcare. And housing and healthcare happen to be the exact economic sectors where prices consistently rise the fastest. Because the government's formula ignores this reality, the COLA almost always lags behind the true inflation rate experienced by seniors. Year after year, the purchasing power of the check suffers microscopic compounding cuts. By year 10, the compounding effect of that lag means the Social Security check buys significantly less than it did on retirement day. This floor of survival is slowly sinking. There is a massive blind spot in the conversation about retiring exclusively on a government check, and it comes down to a deceptive reliance on national statistics. This chart shows the baseline math you usually see in the financial media and government reports. They point to a national average monthly benefit of around $1,900 and compare it to the average national cost of a one-bedroom apartment. The flaw in these spreadsheets is that your retirement does not actually happen inside a national average. It happens in a specific, highly localized zip code. A national average artificially smooths out extreme peaks and valleys by blending the low cost of living in rural Mississippi with the high costs of downtown Boston. But you cannot pay your specific property tax bill with a national average. If you live in an area where local property values have surged, your local tax assessments will surge right alongside them. Highly specific local economic conditions can rapidly destroy a retirement plan that looked mathematically acceptable on a high-level spreadsheet. Take local weather geography. If you live in a region with harsh, freezing winters, your heating bills will become a relentless drain on your resources. Conversely, if you live in the sweltering heat of the South, your summer air conditioning costs can easily rival a small car payment. Even something as mundane as the local grocery store landscape dictates your survival. If your town only has one major supermarket chain, you are entirely captive to their pricing model. You do not have the option to shop around for better deals if the next nearest store is 20 miles away, especially if gas prices are high or your physical mobility is limited. When your sole income is a static Social Security check, you are completely trapped by the economic microclimate of your exact location. There is absolutely zero mathematical buffer to protect you when that specific local economy experiences a sudden spike in daily living costs. Beyond those external geographic pressures, there is a terrifying internal vulnerability built right into the household structure itself. When a married couple sits down at the kitchen table and calculates that their 2 combined Social Security checks can barely cover their expenses, they often experience a false sense of relief. They look at the total and agree to extreme sacrifices, cutting out all vacations, never eating at restaurants, convinced that if they are careful enough, the math works. This structural load visualization shows exactly what they have built. That heavy block of household expenses is precariously balanced on 2 separate, fragile pillars of income. It is a highly fragile financial system with a catastrophic single point of failure. That failure is triggered by the survivor benefit trap. Under the rules of the Social Security Administration, when one spouse passes away, the surviving spouse is only entitled to keep the higher benefit. The smaller check disappears forever. If a couple built their survival strategy around a $3,000 combined baseline, $2,000 from the husband and $1,000 from the wife, the income drops instantly to $2,000 upon the husband's death. A permanent loss of a full third of the total incoming cash flow means the household's entire financial foundation plummets literally overnight. The crushing reality of this after state is that fixed household costs do not drop by a third just because the income did. The local government does not reduce property taxes for a grieving widow. The utility bills and the homeowner's insurance premiums remain exactly the same. The cost to maintain the physical structure of the house, keeping a solid roof, functioning plumbing, and a working heating system, does not decrease by a single penny. This data visualization contrasts the brutal math of the new reality. A heavy bar representing 100% of the fixed structural costs now dwarfs the much smaller bar representing only 66% of the previous income. The surviving spouse is forced to carry the entire load. Retiring on Social Security alone is incredibly dangerous because it relies on a false state of perfect, unchanging equilibrium. It ignores unpredictable variables. A sudden need for expensive long-term medical care, unpredictable spikes in inflation, or major home repairs will rapidly drain minimal savings against the finite, highly constrained reality of the system's payout. The moment that delicate balance breaks, the survivor is left free-falling into deep financial insecurity. They face their most isolated years with virtually zero capacity to return to the workforce and earn active income. When we approach retirement, we often treat it as a simple yes or no question. Can I survive on Social Security alone? But that is the wrong framework entirely. A much safer, more accurate approach is to find the exact mathematical gap between your projected government check and your absolute minimum viable floor. Finding that number requires you to ruthlessly strip away everything that is not critical to your immediate physical survival. You have to ignore the cost of vacations, or dining out, or buying gifts for your grandchildren. This ledger shows your absolute base requirements. At the very bottom, you calculate the things you physically cannot stop paying for: mandatory property taxes, homeowners insurance, and the minimum utilities needed to keep the lights on and the pipes from freezing. Next, you add the mandatory healthcare layer. This includes your Medicare Part B premiums, a Medigap policy, and the out-of-pocket costs for the specific medications that keep your heart beating and your blood pressure stable. Finally, add the bare minimum grocery bill required for proper nutrition, not the grocery bill you currently enjoy. That final combined number is your true survival floor. If your projected Social Security check falls short of that floor, you have moved from the realm of financial planning into an active survival crisis. You are essentially stepping off a cliff and hoping the wind will catch you. This calculation is exactly why the timing of your claim becomes the most critical decision of your late-stage financial life. If Social Security is your only lifeline, the math of your claiming age is incredibly unforgiving. Claiming at 62 shrinks your foundation, locking in a check 25 to 30% smaller. Every dollar lost is defense permanently surrendered, lowering your survival floor against rising costs. Every year you delay, that foundation grows thicker, providing a stronger barrier against inflation. For those without a pension or a large 401k, delaying your claim serves as the only guaranteed, government-backed method to buy more floor space and fortify your survival. Life does not always follow a spreadsheet. Millions do not choose to retire at 62. They are forced into it. They are pushed out of the workforce by corporate downsizing, age discrimination, or a sudden, devastating deterioration in their own physical health. When you are forced to claim a reduced check just to keep the creditors at bay, you must immediately shift your mindset. You are no longer planning for retirement. You are restructuring for survival. This means making brutal, unsentimental decisions while you still have the agency to make them. You must aggressively downsize your living situation before property taxes drain your accounts and shed any asset that costs money simply to maintain. In many cases, it means relocating to a geographic area where the local economy is less hostile to a fixed income. You cannot afford the luxury of waiting for the math to improve. On a fixed income, the cost of living only moves in one direction. The American retirement system was originally built on the metaphor of a three-legged stool: pensions, personal savings, and Social Security. Over the last 40 years, corporate America has systematically sawed off the pension leg. The personal savings leg has been eroded by stagnant wages and the sheer expense of raising a family in the modern economy. Today, for a massive percentage of the population, Social Security is the only leg left standing. The original architects of the system never intended for that single leg to bear the entire weight of a human life for 30 years. They intended Social Security to be a sturdy foundation beneath a house built of private savings and pensions. If the rest of that house never got built, you have to accept the reality of the structure you are standing on. You are living on the foundation alone. Because this foundation is your only protection against the storm, maximizing its mathematical width is your ultimate priority. Once you sign your name and lock in that final number, the concrete dries, the rules are set, and the game of defense begins for the rest of your life.